Hello everyone, this is Venus Brown, and today I'm going to be doing a reaction to The Crown, Season 1, Episode 7, called, now I might not get this pronunciation right, Scientia Potentiest, something to do with the potential of science? That's the best I got. I hope that's good enough. And here we have it. The intro to The Crown, just without the music, because we can't be having the music playing. If you like this video, please click the like button. If you want more content, click subscribe. If you click that little bell and click all, then you'll get more content notifications. There it is. And here is my background.
The dignified?
Very good. The efficient has the power to make and execute policy and is answerable to the electorate.
I feel like the crow or raven or blackbird or whatever always is supposed to mean something. I wonder if it means something in this.
Precisely. Only work when they support each other, when they trust one another. You can underline that.
Shouldn't I know all of this too?
No, ma'am. All very undignified.
Don't need precocious royalty. Yes, you should look at him like you're angry, because you should be angry. Scientia Potentiest. I know, I'm not really good with the whole English language. Like American English is one thing. British English. That wouldn't even have been English, would it?
At the time of my education, I asked the Vice Provost if we shouldn't spend a bit of time on literature, philosophy, science. He felt I had enough on my plate as it was. But don't you think I should have learned about it?
Why?
Well, doesn't one have a duty?
So that you know what the hell you're talking
things.
about. You know what's going on in the world. And you know how to freaking figure things out.
Well, no, that's the point, Mummy. I know almost nothing.
You know when to keep your mouth shut. That's more important than anything.
And that would have been fine if I'd gone on to live a normal life. But now, I spend so much time with politicians and statesmen. You know, I live in dread of being left alone with them.
Your dear Papa, just the same.
May not be aware, but this is my retirement year.
Really? How long has it been?
33 years, ma'am, serving 4 sovereigns.
One can hardly imagine the place without you.
Well, it's kind of you to say so, ma'am, but we're well prepared for the transition. The deputy's long been groomed and made ready.
2 deputies, am I right?
Yes, ma'am, a senior and a junior.
An heir and a spare.
Quite.
Well,
Heir and spare.
I'd like
that
you to know how
word
grateful
from,
we all are to you.
not House of the Dragon, but,
My father was quite dependent on you.
Fire and
You know
Blood.
that. But you deserve to put your feet up. And I think I could work quite well with Martin Charteris.
Martin Charteris?
Yes. I assume you'll give that your blessing.
Martin is the junior deputy private secretary, ma'am, the spare. Michael Dean is the senior, the rightful heir.
Martin and I have worked together before.
I'm aware of that.
I'm sure that Michael would understand that I had a pre-existing relationship with Martin, not take it personally. Martin is a younger man. It's the more natural fit.
If that is your Majesty's wish.
Are you actually going to let her have her wish this time? Because usually it seems like there seems to be some give, and then all of a sudden, just take it all away. Don't give her anything she wants.
The Soviets and their H-bomb. We now have confirmation that they have been testing in the Kazakh desert. It is vital that we act swiftly to secure peace, and vital that we British spearhead the effort. I have always been the person everyone wants. In a great danger that Eisenhower will take it upon himself to run the show.
That would be bad.
Oh, a disaster, ma'am, for all the obvious reasons.
Remind me of the obvious reasons.
Russia is a great old empire which demands and deserves respect. Americans with a loud voice in the matter of world governance, they are not yet ready. They need an experienced and elder power to guide them, school them.
Yes, we could all do with some school.
To that end, I've asked the Foreign Secretary to go to Washington to lay plans for a summit meeting between myself and Eisenhower to start discussing a unified approach for...
Do you think he's up to it?
Eisenhower?
No, the Foreign Secretary.
Antony is the finest Foreign Secretary this country has had for generations.
Yes, but I've heard he's also a very sick man. I would hate to think that the country wasn't in safe hands.
Ramping up their production, long-range bomber aircraft. You all right, sir?
My bag, please. Give me my bag.
Heart pills.
Give me this.
Sir, this really should be done by a doctor.
Find a vein. Come on.
Should be done by a doctor. Not if you don't have time to find a doctor.
That gentleman is not just a sleeping man. It's a sad metaphor. The second most powerful man in what was once the most powerful country on earth.
Blooms.
Good God.
I love that.
And his
dress.
departure
That dark purple.
will leave something
Subtle
again.
flowers. Really pretty.
Yes.
And I was wondering whether you might be interested in filling that gap.
As what, ma'am?
My private secretary.
I'd be delighted, but
But what?
what about Michael Nadine?
What about him?
He is the natural successor.
I was hoping it might be possible for me to make my own decision just once. There are 2 private secretaries to choose from, and I happen to prefer the junior. So, shall we say that's that?
Yes.
In the
Does this
meantime.
mean she's
No, no,
actually
no.
going to get her way
Thank you,
this
Martin.
time?
Actually, Martin, a tutor. I'd like to engage one.
Yep.
Any particular field?
That's
General
what I was
education.
thinking,
I'll come up with some names.
is that when she has the time,
Oh, and Martin, preferably one, you know, not too
start
stuffy.
self-educating,
Sense of
or
humor.
getting a tutor.
Understood.
That's got to be so frustrating. Because from what I understand, she was
no
supposed to be
stranger
very
to pain,
precocious,
Winston.
which means she had the
This
capacity.
has become intolerable.
There was no good reason to keep her uneducated other than that was the expectation of the time.
To deal with gallbladder problems in America.
Due to the high-fat diets they have here.
Leaving me without you for the summit with Ike. Can't delay it.
Oh, baby.
No, I can't.
On the
Look
ship
up
without me for some time.
gallstones and found out I had kidney stones. I thought they said I had gallstones too.
But I'd
But
still like to hear you say
according
it
to my
again.
husband, you have to like surgically remove those. And
Like you
I
to say it again,
definitely
so
did not have to do that. So, but I know I had kidney stones.
I depend on you,
They were
Antony.
small, so they
What for?
just had to naturally pass.
Louder, please.
Yes, all right, yes. I need you there, Anthony. I think we're all agreed. I need you.
And I need the surgery, Winston. It's my life that's at stake now.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
agendas of the day with these people that I find myself on the back foot. I can't keep up. Or I don't know what lies behind something.
And that's no way to live. To be uninformed and entirely at someone else's mercy.
Quite. Which is why I was hoping that you might help me hold my own some more.
Like the idea that
Feel
it should
less
be
of a
proper for
disadvantage.
anybody to be undereducated,
some of the gaps.
uneducated, or
Her
to
Majesty
dumb
would give
down
me
their
an idea of roughly
education.
how far she got.
When?
With her education. I'd better know at what level to pitch
You might
our
want to
tutorial.
give her a test of your own.
The higher school certificate, for
place
example.
her.
School certificate,
Consider
then.
royals are homeschooled, not necessarily at a
Any
particular
privately
level.
tutored equivalents thereof, perhaps?
Provide a pretest. What education? Well,
What about?
not what education? Just only educated in
The fact that I
certain
didn't
things.
receive one.
You did.
Sewing, needlework, and saying poems with Crawford. That is
Like
not
Gilead.
an education.
Darling.
Being drilled in matters of the Constitution.
Which is far more than your sister ever got.
Mummy, I'm talking about a normal education. In normal subjects.
You received an entirely appropriate education for a woman of your background.
Which has entirely failed to prepare me for the life I lead now.
We taught you how to be a lady. No one wants a blue stocking or a college lecturer as sovereign. They want a queen.
It's a queen who is hopelessly ill-equipped to deal with the people that she has to meet.
This to do with me?
How
You
could you
allowed
have
her
let
to
me
not
down
be
like this?
educated.
Is this a criticism of my motherhood? Something that doesn't come naturally, dear. That's what I've learned. We all have
It's
to
not
accept our
natural
limitations.
to stunt a curious person's education. To intentionally make them more ignorant by not educating them.
Bobbity, that's all a minor stroke. But I'm on the mend, bouncing back.
Well, you don't look very bouncy to me. Who knows?
No one, and no one can know, especially the Queen.
What? I have promised her that the country will always have a healthy man in charge. You know me, Bobbity. I am a man of my word.
But you can't just hide it from her.
Lying doesn't make you
I
healthy.
mean, you're head of the government. A cold.
Jock, you have my permission to extend that to the flu.
Sir.
But no more. We have to get Eisenhower here.
So you see, Tommy, there's no other way.
I can put it to her, Bobbity, but I wouldn't hold your breath.
Bobbity. Bobbity, 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 bobbity.
Afraid I have a state banquet to arrange, so if we could possibly wait until later.
I think when you hear it, you'll share my sense of alarm. It seems that Martin Charteris is to replace you as Her Majesty's private secretary, not me.
What?
Says who? Says Margaret Colville, Jock Colville's wife, who plays bridge with Alice Jameson, lady-in-waiting, who, as you may know, plays tennis with Mary Charteris.
Why on earth would I know that?
Pull the rug off from under her again. It's not every day you get a visit from the president. Or that the president gets a visit from the
Tommy. I did. Do sit down.
I think I do.
Manifestly not.
You freaking talked directly to the queen. You heard what she said. You know what she wanted. You just, like, every step of the way intentionally, like, go against her wishes. I know that you have these traditions and
Professor
stuff.
Hall, Your Majesty.
But every now and then, like, every once in a blue moon,
Professor.
maybe let something fucking shift a little bit. Good lord.
I know you were going to in a matter of days, and I'll be expected to sit next to him and make conversation with him. So I need to know all about him and what interests him.
The military-industrial complex, ma'am.
What?
And its threat to democratic government. It's what most concerns him.
Something lighter, perhaps?
Something lighter.
6 months ago.
Yes, I think I read about that. A Presbyterian.
Did they dunk him in some
I
river?
don't think Presbyterians do.
If I were a gambling man, I'd say yes.
I share your admiration for Mr. O'Brien. and
Was fairly religious when I
trainer.
was a kid.
That's
Was
not why you
Lutheran.
backed him.
We got this.
I just like the name.
You know, on the head and stuff like
I see.
that. But we definitely didn't do full submersion. It was very similar to Catholic, I think.
Temporary inconvenience. How much does she know exactly?
Not a lot.
Because from the tone of this Winston, a cold.
Yes, a cold. If she knew the truth, she would bid me stand down.
Good.
A wrong replacement.
The
because the
wrong
right man
replacement.
Anthony!
is himself
If you want
incapacitated.
something done right, you have to
Too
do it
much
yourself.
knowledge can be a danger.
You mean to tell me that at the moment this country is without a fit leader or a deputy leader?
So loud.
An invitation from the palace has proved impossible for the Americans to refuse.
Wonderful news!
Don't get out of bed.
Yeah.
No, don't get out of bed,
Given
darling.
a heart attack on top of his stroke.
If I comes here,
Or a second stroke.
That's what really
Look at
matters.
this guy.
He's
He's
getting
like,
me.
he does not know how to keep himself calm.
Look, why don't you admit the truth that you have been fighting for your life and tell the Queen?
How serious is it this time?
It's impossible to know.
Second stroke in the matter
I
of
fear
days.
we do
It's
now
fucking
have to put off the
serious.
Americans and tell the Queen.
No. No, we're in too deep now for that.
We're in too deep.
If Eisenhower isn't coming, blame it on him, not on Winston. The Queen must never know how much we've kept from her.
President Eisenhower is no longer able to leave the United States owing to a political crisis at home.
Well, that's a relief.
And that the Prime Minister still hasn't shaken off his cold.
It's the second consecutive private audience that he's missed. It's most unlike him.
And I'm afraid I must decline.
Why?
Because yet again, Tummy steps in and
In this
says,
instance, I really do
must
believe
follow
you'll be better served by Michael.
traditions.
You don't think that. Nor could you ever think that. For the very good reason that it's not true. Have you been spoken to by Tommy Lascelles?
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am,
You have. And what did he have to say?
that I obviously have no respect or understanding for palace tradition and protocol.
Did he now?
I hope she gets her way. But seriously, at some point, she's got to be like, look, you are on your way out of here, and I am the queen. And at some point, you need to allow me some room to shift some of these ridiculous traditions.
Your Majesty.
Look, Tommy.
Please give her firm talking.
Disagree. I served your uncle, as you know. And it's in the small things that the rot starts. Do the wrong
And
thing once, it's easy
refusal
to do it
to
again.
make any changes
The individualistic thing
causes
once.
you to become old and outdated, irrelevant.
Start.
It would make me feel as if I had an ally. Friend, almost. In what can sometimes feel like a very...
Well,
You lonely, friendless.
and the senior of my two deputies.
It's a secretary.
But, as always, the final
It isn't
say
a royal position. It's
is
a
with you, ma'am.
position with the royal family. But it's not like a king, queen, prince, lord, lady. Like, seriously. Make some freaking changes. Because, yes, your unwillingness to change will eventually shift to irrelevance. Old, outdated, not useful.
Trust one another and speak plainly when matters of real importance came up.
And before Her Majesty says anything else, let me just say how sorry I am. It's been agony. He was of a mind to let you know the truth.
Second what?
Stroke, ma'am. But they insisted again, everyone keep it quiet, say nothing.
Keep the queen in the dark.
who was it?
Like, seriously, I
Who's
know
doing
that
this?
the royal
Lord Salisbury.
family doesn't have as much power as they used
And the
to,
Prime Minister
and
himself.
all of that, but
On
she's
rare
still
occasions,
in a
it's
position of authority over the entire nation. Insisting on keeping her in the dark
No.
about a variety of things,
I was my
keeping
private
her in a state
rather
of
than Martin
ignorance
Chartres.
during so many of these proceedings where she really needs to know
What
what
you've
the
just
heck's
told
going
me.
on.
Is far more important.
It's just freaking cruel.
Unconstitutional.
What are you going to do?
That's my job.
Because they won't let me
Do nothing and stay
anything.
silent at all times.
Is it not also your duty to act?
I doubt it. I'd have to check.
I think you know precisely.
Yes, it is. And give them a dressing down like children.
Why? You are in the right, they in the wrong.
Yes, but they're far more intelligent than I am. In any confrontation,
No.
they'd out-debate me, outthink me, and
They
outmaneuver
had
me.
more
But this isn't
education.
about
That's not
education
intelligence.
or intelligence. This is about integrity and principle.
Yep.
Ma'am, you say you don't have what it takes to do battle with these people. You do. You were drilled for years in the finer points of our Constitution. You know it better than me, better than all of us. You have the only education that matters.
So what would you have me do?
Summon them and give them a good dressing down like children.
Why would they stand for that?
Because they're
Doesn't
English,
matter.
male, and upper class. A good dressing down from Nanny is what they most want in life.
It's what they most need. They probably won't agree that they
Unconventional
want
to the
it,
end,
but they need
Professor.
it. It's like this, children need routine and structure.
Professor.
It's not that they want to be disciplined, it's that they need that routine and structure. And actually, when you have more routine and structure and people are informed of what they need to know, they're less likely to cause chaos and more likely to do the right thing and be in control and less likely to need discipline than their self-discipline. As an example, I still say just, I don't know when those placement tests I would think that some placement tests existed then, and you could just give her a general figure out where she is.
Was incapacitated. And the Foreign Secretary too. And that you colluded in keeping that information from me.
Colluded!
No, it is
We've
not.
definitely heard
my
that
job
word
to
in
govern,
America
but it is my
for a
job
while.
to ensure proper governance. But how can I do that if my ministers lie and plot and hide the truth from me? You have prevented me from doing my duty. You have hampered and bamboozled the proper functioning of the Crown.
Hampered and bamboozled.
How could you?
Prime Minister. Please.
You got them scared.
Prime Minister, Your Majesty.
Sometimes you gotta lay down the law. It's not always pleasant, but it needs to be done. Especially with these figures that think that they're too big for their britches.
The people of my realms, according to their respective laws and customs. Now, one of those customs is that their elected Prime Minister should be of reasonably sound body and mind. Not an outrageous expectation, one would have thought.
No.
Chose to withhold that information from me. A decision which feels like a betrayal not just of the covenant of trust between us and the institutions that we both represent, but of our own personal relationship.
Just get him right there.
In 1867, Walter Bagehot wrote, "There are two elements of the Constitution. The efficient and the dignified. The monarch is the dignified, and the government the efficient. These two institutions only work when they support each other, when they trust one another. Your actions, your breaking of that trust, was irresponsible. Is it sufficiently better? Fit for office better? I would ask you to consider your response in light of the respect that my rank and my office deserve, not that which my age and gender might suggest.
Ready. And therefore I have discharged my duty to your father. With your blessing and your forgiveness, I shall continue to serve as the leader of your Majesty's government.
It wasn't a test. It was that study guide.
Where have you been?
Oh, charity cricket bash for the National Playing Fields Association. Spent some time at the airfield, doing some rows. No cabinet approval, don't tell anyone.
What are you dressed for?
Haven't you heard? We've a state banquet this evening.
Haven't you heard? It's been cancelled.
Why doesn't anybody tell me anything?
Well, perhaps if you were here more. What?
I don't know.
I advise you to choose your next words very carefully.
Somehow.
Taller.
Or is it just that I've shrunk?
There's nothing shrunken about you, dearest.
Where are you going?
I've got an appointment with my new private secretary.
Tell him to bugger off.
I can't do that.
Spicy today.
And do what instead?
Two options. Either I get some stilts so I can reach the heights of my new tall woman.
Or?
Or she could get on her knees.
I feel like I'm still missing stuff. That was episode 7. Well, anyway. Gosh. And I know they said it. They said it in there while they were talking about some of the events that were happening. But I still didn't understand exactly, like, what the purpose in calling that episode Scientia Potentia Est. But anyway, it was very, very steeped in the importance of, like, really getting a good, grounded education. And how being an authority figure without a proper full education, frankly, being uneducated like that, receiving dumbed-down education like that, no matter who you are, it puts you at a disadvantage. It's not fair to the person that's uneducated. It isn't right to intentionally put people into that situation. I mean, it's one thing when maybe you don't have the intellect and capacity to really understand all of the information and get the kind of education you need. But when you do have the capacity and you do have the ability and the understanding, and you're intentionally forced to be undereducated, that's, to me, is jacked up. And understand, I am a previous educator. I worked primarily in early education and special needs education, especially with autism community. But I also did eventually get certified in full elementary education up to 6th grade, and I substituted in several high school classes as well. But my focus was primarily special needs and early education. But still, Like I remember when I was working with autistic kids, and there are certain ways that people want the classroom to function and that they want you to provide education to these students. But sometimes the students, you know, they learn in their own ways, and I remember one of my students being very frustrated. Okay, two of my students being very frustrated because the way that they were being taught was one way, but the way they learned was very different. And I would do the best that I could to make sure that I understood how they learned and that I understood how to properly educate them so that they would get it, versus just letting this curriculum be done the way that it was laid out when it didn't really work for those kids. But anyway, it was frustrating to me that I had these students who were learning in a certain way, and a lot of the other professionals that worked with them were not like seeing that this kid needed to learn in a certain way, that this kid was doing these certain things. And so they weren't being given credit for the things that they understood. They weren't being taught in a way that was adequate for them. It's just so frustrating. Like, when you know that they have the capacity, you know that they're smart, but people are like holding them back intentionally. That's frustrating. Very irritating to me. And I have a brother who's autistic too. I mean, that's why I got into, you know, working with autistic kids in the first place, because my brother's autistic. And I remember when he was very, very young, when they were trying to figure out what was wrong. It took until well into his teen years before they finally figured out that he was autistic. But when he was very young, they basically told my mother that he was retarded, that he wouldn't learn anything in first or second grade, and she's being told he's not going to learn anything else. And that was nonsense. He isn't going to learn the way everybody else does, and he's not going to learn to his age level, but he certainly was able to learn. You just have to figure out where to reach them and how to reach them. You need to figure out how they learn. Because just because a kid is autistic, just because a kid has developmental disabilities, neurological disabilities, doesn't mean that it's not there. It doesn't mean they don't have the capability. Keep pushing. Keep trying to find what works for them, and trying to pull out what they do understand. It's like autistic kids, they have trouble with communication sometimes. And sometimes you have to figure out how to communicate with them just to find out how much they know. Because if they can communicate with you, if you can understand how they communicate, then you could get a better grasp of how much they actually know. If you can't communicate with them and they can't communicate with you, then they may have all kinds of knowledge that you don't realize because you just can't communicate with them. Anyway, I should get off my soapbox. Until next time, I'll see you when I see you. If you like this video, please click the like button. If you want more content, click subscribe. If you click that little bell and click all, then you'll get more content notifications.